Santos walks free, Trump shakes down the DOJ, and the White House is gold as far as the eye can see. I'm Jovan Bradley, and this is the Weekly Dump. Welcome to the Weekly Dump, your number 2 source for number 1 news. My name is Jovan Bradley, and we are back to bring you more of what you crave, that sweet, sweet leftist indoctrination. We're currently live here in Studio B, and it is Sunday, October 26th, and I am in the studio as always with producer Steve, technical director Chris, and director of photography Jonathan. And we have a great show lined up for you today, okay? So sit back, relax, and let the woke mind virus infect you even further. Okay? Now, welcome in. If you are here watching us, I want to say hello. We are checking chat. I have chat pulled up from my stream. The producers have chat pulled up from Red Mirror Media stream. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the dump. I hope you're ready for some stories and some chats. Now, you may be thinking, hey, Jovan, what is this show? I didn't know you did this. What is this? The Weekly Dump? I've never heard of it. Well, the Weekly Dump is a weekly news and discussion show brought to you by Red Mirror Media. We are a leftist media company seeking to erase bias in right-leaning media by bringing you biased and left-leaning media. It makes sense in my head, either way. If you want to support us, guys, if you want to support the stream, there are a couple ways you can do that. You can go to Patreon. Okay, we have a Patreon. I'm sure the producers will drop it in the chat for you. Red Mirror Media is on Patreon. You can go and support us over there. You can support us here on YouTube. If you're on the Red Mirror Media page, send a super chat. We read all super chats sent to the Red Mirror Media page in between debates and discussions and in between the news. So we're going to read those for you. If you want to talk to me today, okay, now here's the thing. We're going to prioritize debate callers. So if you're sitting there and you're like, hey, I like Donald Trump, and I think Donald Trump was a good president, and I want to talk to Jovan about Donald Trump being a good president. Well, first of all, shut up. Second of all, you can call the number that is there on the screen, 914-268-6224. But if you're like, Jovan, I just have some questions. I want to know some stuff about your takes here. I have general political things that I want to know. You can also call in. Imagine this as an office hours of sorts. And my office door is wide open for calls. We're going to do those after we go through the news stories. So if you want to, 914-268-6224, call screeners are standing by to take your calls. And then after the news, I will answer your calls. And I will, impart upon you the knowledge in which I have imparted upon myself. Now, we have a couple of stories to talk about today. Our news portion today isn't as long as usual, but that's okay because we want to make sure we have time to take your calls because we didn't get to take calls last week. So we want time to make sure we can hear from you. Remember, it's getting time. Oh, look at that. We already have a super dump. Okay, first super dump. I like the name of that, Steve. I assume you edited that in the booth, somebody. Whether it was Steve, Chris, or Jonathan. Super dumps, hilarious. Our first super dump from Yemye said, Jovan, you should hydrate. I put my water back there, so I can't reach it right now. So I will hydrate as soon as I can. But remember, chat, hydrate or dihydrate. Thank you for the super chat, Yemye. Thank you so much. That made me laugh. I don't know what. Anyway, we're gonna get going. We're gonna start the show today. So I hope you're ready because our first story involves Trump and the DOJ, and it's hilarious. So, in a move that comes straight out of a South Park episode, Donald Trump has demanded the U.S. Department of Justice pay him $230 million for. Now hold on. Okay, yeah. Let me make sure I have this right. For properly doing their job. Trump wants the DOJ to fork over a large sum of cash as compensation for the number of investigations into him since his first term as president. He alleges he's owed damages for the time the DOJ investigated the validity of Russian interference into the 2016 election. Claims, by the way, that both Democrats and Republicans verified. Also, for illegally searching his Mar-a-Lago residence, where they found boxes upon boxes of classified government information. He wasn't supposed to be in possession of this, by the way. And that search, the DOJ had a legal and valid warrant for. So, he's just making things up in order to get a big fat payday from the US government. And do you know who are the ones that need to approve his $230 million sham settlement? His own appointed officials, people like Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, who previously worked as Trump's criminal defense attorney. A defense attorney, by the way, that famously lost Trump's hush money trial in New York, turning him from a creepy racist sex offending jerk to a creepy racist sex offending jerk with 34 felonies. And to put this further into perspective for you, these kinds of settlements from the DOJ are extremely rare. Back in 2012, the Commerce Department unlawfully investigated Sherry Chen, a hydrologist working for the National Weather Service. The investigation was part of a probe that later was determined to be racially discriminatory against Chinese Americans, therefore making it, say it with me now, illegal. The FBI and DOJ baselessly arrested her and accused Chen of unlawfully downloading sensitive government data. They falsely portrayed her as a spy for China. The Justice Department then dropped all charges against her the night before her trial. Then in 2022, she received a payout of about $1.8 million. This was the largest DOJ settlement we could find where the DOJ paid out to an individual on the basis of false investigations. So now you have Commandant Cheeto, and he claims he's going to use the money to, quote, do something nice for the country. But at that point, he's just stealing our money. It's like, I don't know, maybe instead of using it to swing your big presidential dick around, use it on something more important, like liposuction on your neck gussy. Now, I don't know about you, chat. Let's do our Jovan's thoughts real quick. We talked, I don't remember if it was last week or the week before, but we talked about how Donald Trump has already been paid out $90 million through settlements from essentially bogus lawsuits from companies like Meta, companies like Google, companies like CBS. These are all bogus, okay? These are all lawsuits that lawyers have said time and time again should have been thrown out before they even got to the settlement phase. But Donald Trump is collecting that check. Now, I personally think Donald Trump getting $230 million for being investigated for stuff he did do is probably not the best use of taxpayer funds. I don't know what you think about that, but if you disagree with me and you're like, no, Jovan, this is actually a great use for taxpayer funds, why don't you call in 914-268-6224? That number again, 914-268-6224. Call in and tell me why you disagree. Or if you want to ask me questions, we still have that number there for you to call in and say, hey, Jovan, I just wanted to tell you, I agree, Trump is bad. And then I would say, okay, caller, I agree with you as well, Trump is bad. And then that would be the end of the call because we essentially agreed. Anyway, on to our next story of the day. Now, demolition began on the east wing of the White House last Monday to build Trump's privately funded $250 million ballroom. We actually have very little information about the ballroom aside from some rendered photos and a model because the Trump administration refused to submit their plans to the federal agency that approves these sort of renovations. That would be the National Capital Planning Commission. Now, the NCPC doesn't really mind, however, since Trump placed one of his top aides, Will Scharf, at the helm. And while the plans have not been made public yet, we do have some details. It's set to be about 90,000 square feet, which is almost twice the size of the main residence, and meant to accommodate 999 people. Of course, in true Trump fashion, everything will be gold. Gold everywhere. Gold as far as the eye can see. Now, when Trump announced this project in July, Secretary and bullshit Barbie, Caroline Levitt, stood at a podium of lies and had this exchange with a reporter.
Jennifer, go ahead. Eager beaver today.
How much of the East Wing will be torn down? The entire East Wing or just parts of it?
So the East Wing is going to be modernized. The necessary construction will take place. And for those who are housed in the East Wing, including the Office of the First Lady, the White House Military Office, the White House Visitors Offices, those offices will be temporarily relocated while the East Wing is being modernized.
Now, holy shit, she's a fucking liar. Now, her exact words were, so the East Wing is going to be modernized. The necessary construction will take place, and for those who are housed in the East Wing, those offices will be temporarily relocated while the East Wing is being modernized. Modernization is updating things like electrical, HVAC, and plumbing, maybe updates to the flooring or the light fixtures, or adding solar panels. The East Wing can't be modernized anymore because the East Wing no longer exists. If you need more evidence that the Trump administration lied in July about demolishing the East Wing, listen to Trump's own words.
Thank you for the question. Yeah, please. Please, go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. President, can you talk about your plans for the new ballroom that was announced today?
Yeah.
The $200 million, that's going to be paid for by yourself?
By me, yeah.
Private donations?
It's a private thing, yeah. I'll do it, and we'll probably have some donors or whatever, but it's about $200 million. So we've been planning it for a long time. They've wanted a ballroom at the White House for more than 150 years, but there's never been a president that was good at ballrooms. I'm really good. In fact, I looked at one that we just built in Turnberry in Scotland, and it's incredible. We're good at building. I'm good at building things, and we'll get it built quickly and on time, and it'll be beautiful, top of the line. We've retained the best architects and engineers, everything else. It'll be built over on the east side, and it will be beautiful. It'll be views of the Washington Monument. It won't interfere with the current building. It'll be near it, but not touching it, and pays total respect to the existing building, which I'm the biggest fan of. It's my favorite place. I love it. But they've wanted it, and you know.
Now, the demolition photos are something else. Ripping off the facade of the East Wing perfectly illustrates what this administration is doing to this country. And what's even funnier is the East Wing traditionally houses the office of the First Lady. Yep, Trump is tearing down the First Lady's traditional base of operations to build a party space for himself. It wasn't a difficult sell to his wife, as she famously doesn't even live at the White House, opting to spend weeks at a time in New York or Florida. And even when she is at the White House, sleeping in separate bedrooms other than her husband's, because nothing screams perfect Christian marriage like refusing to live together. Now, there is one thing that's really concerning about this whole situation, however, and that one question that keeps nagging at my little leftist brain like a kid begging you for a turn on NBA 2K, knowing full well he's never played before, and after you beat him, he'll just rage for 5 minutes until you eventually turn on Fort Blocks or Ronite. Now, how will Trump use the ballroom? I mean, he's only in office for 3 more years, right? Why have most mainstream news outlets not seemed to notice that a 90,000 square foot structure that must be built to withstand military strikes can't really feasibly be built within a year or two? Now, the official narrative from the White House is that it will be built well before Trump's term ends in January of 2029. Anyone with even a cursory knowledge of commercial building knows this is nonsense. If showing off 2028 merch to foreign leaders in the Oval Office wasn't clear enough of a signal that Trump's intent is to not leave office, well, a 90,000 square foot ballroom that will take years to complete probably should be. And if you're still not convinced he wants to stay in office past 2028, well, here's a clip from an interview with Steve Bannon this week, where he flat out says that the Trump administration intends to bypass the 22nd Amendment.
Does he need a third term in order to see that job through?
Well, he's going to get a third term. So Trump 28, Trump is going to be president in 28, and people just ought to get accommodated with that.
So what about the 22nd Amendment?
There's many different alternatives. At the appropriate time, we'll lay out what the plan is, but there's a plan, and President Trump will be the president in 28. We had longer odds in 16 and longer odds in 24 than we got in 28. And President Trump will be the president of the United States, and the country needs him to be president of the United States. We have to finish what we started. And the way we finish it, Trump is a vehicle. I know this will drive you guys crazy, but he's a vehicle of divine providence. He's an instrument. He's very imperfect. He's not churchy, not particularly religious, but he's an instrument of divine will. And you can tell this of how he's pulled this off. We need him for at least one more term.
So, while Trump is busy demolishing the East Wing to build his gilded temple of excess, let's turn our attention to a country that just made what sounds like historic progress for women in leadership. And I want you to remember that phrase, sounds like, okay? Because up next, we're going to talk about Japan's first female prime minister. Okay, quick crash course on Japanese politics because this is gonna be confusing otherwise. Japan has basically been a one-party democracy since 1955, the Liberal Democratic Party, which despite its name is actually pretty conservative. And it's ruled almost continuously for 70 years. Think of them like if Mitt Romney's Republican Party held power in America for 7 straight decades. You know, a big tent that includes everyone from moderate conservatives to ultra-nationalists. Now, the LDP doesn't usually govern alone. They form coalition governments with smaller parties to secure majorities. For decades, their partner was Komeito, a centrist Buddhist-backed party that kept them from going too far right. You know, like that one girlfriend who tries to pull back her boyfriend when he gets too drunk and starts going off about Holocaust denial. Chad, look at me. Look at me, Chad. This isn't you. This isn't you, Chad. You've drunk too much. Now, corruption scandals like Summer caused Komeito to break up with the LDP. And when your stabilizing partner leaves after decades together, apparently you panic and grab whoever's available, which happens to be an Osaka-based right-wing populist party called the Japan Innovation Party. And I hear you through the screen. Where's the left-wing political party during all of this? Well, 2 words. Dumpster fire. Japan's left-wing coalition looks almost exactly like the Democratic Party. You've got the Constitutional Democratic Party, a socially progressive neoliberal party who wave rainbow flags and talk about climate change while protecting corporate interests and free market capitalism. And then you've got the actual leftists, which I'll tell you about once I pick up my remote, because the thing might be going a little too fast for my own good, and I dropped it, Chad. I dropped it, okay? Look, don't be angry at me, and now it's not working. I have a remote that controls. Oh my god, it's like okay, there we go. I have a remote that controls my teleprompter, and I dropped it, and then it stopped working. So let's talk about the actual leftists from Japan, and that would be the Japanese Communist Party and Social Democrats. You know, they are the ones who actually want to address wealth inequality, strengthen labor rights, and actually challenge the economic system. You know, the good stuff. The moderates, though, would rather lose elections than push to help the working class. The CDP's centrist wing is so terrified of being associated with the word communist that they continue to sabotage their own coalition. They literally rather let the right-wing LDP keep winning than coordinate with parties further to their left. Now, the Japanese Communist Party has tried for decades to work with the Constitutional Democratic Party. They pull back candidates, they offer limited cooperation, they compromise. And these funny centrists keep rejecting them because they're more afraid of their own left flank than they are of losing to conservatives. Now, does that sound familiar? Because it sure sounds like American Democrats to me. Watch them as they burn down effective change by backstabbing the actual progressives and refusing to address actual meaningful policy change. Oh, no, we can't support Medicare for all. That's too socialist. We can't work with those radical leftists. Meanwhile, the right wing just stays winning. Go broke, go woke, go broke, jokers. Okay. Anyway, let's get back to our actual story. On Tuesday, Japan's parliament elected Sanai Takaichi as prime minister. She's 64 years old, ultra-conservative, and won 237 to 149. That's exactly 4 votes more than she needed, so she just barely scraped by. She only got there because her Liberal Democratic Party made a desperate last-minute deal with the Japan Innovation Party. Even with this new alliance, she still doesn't have a majority in both houses of parliament, meaning she'll need to court opposition parties to pass anything. And here's the wild part. Japan's first female prime minister has 0 interest in advancing women's rights. Takaichi opposes same-sex marriage. She opposes allowing married couples to keep separate surnames, which is huge in Japan, where women are legally required to take their husband's name. She supports keeping the imperial succession male only. No joke. She's one of the politicians who's blocked progress on gender equality. Japan ranks 118th out of 146 countries on gender issues, and their first female leader wants to keep it that way. She was the protege of assassinated former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, and and he was an okay. I'm sorry. She was an is an open admirer of Margaret Thatcher, and I don't think I have to tell you that we probably should not be electing people that were open admirers of Margaret fucking Thatcher. Takaichi has been in Parliament since 1993, but she famously has no diplomatic experience, and now she's going to deal with Trump, regional summits, and international crises. Takaichi also regularly visits I'm going to pronounce this wrong, but we're going to try. Yasukuni Shrine. Yasukuni Shrine. God, sorry to any Japanese watchers. So she regularly visits Yasukuni Shrine, which honors Japanese war dead, including convicted war criminals. China and South Korea have openly stated that they see these visits as Japan refusing to acknowledge wartime atrocities. This was actually one of the reasons Kimito, the Buddhist-based party that we mentioned before, left the coalition. They didn't want to work with someone who seemed to have a revisionist idea of Japan's wartime history. Now, to her credit, since becoming prime minister, she's toned this down a bit. For example, last Friday, she sent a religious ornament to the shrine instead of visiting it in person, which is like going from smoking a pack of cigarettes to smoking just 19 cigarettes, because one less is, technically speaking, objectively better. The Takaichi agenda is basically Shinzo Abe's greatest hits, and should sound rather familiar to anyone who's kept up with conservative politics in the last 20 years. Stronger military, constitutional revision to end Japan's pacifist clause, and economic reforms, but it's unclear how much she'll actually accomplish any of this. Political analysis, Jesus, why can't I speak today? Political analysts are already saying her government could be unstable and short-lived. So, congratulations on that glass ceiling, I guess. First female prime minister with the political stability of a Jenga tower. The first woman to lead Japan is actively working to assure other women don't follow in her footsteps. Now, I don't know about you, chat, as I talk directly to camera and talk to you, the listener, but maybe, just hear me out, maybe we should be pushing for the rights of women. I don't want to say something too controversial, but maybe women deserve rights? Question mark? Ellipses? Comma? ETC? I don't know, but that's what I think anyway. All right, next up. Okay. This one is, I got to tell you guys, before we get into this next story, I need you to know something. This next story has sent me down a rabbit hole, and you'll find out what that rabbit hole ends up leading to later. But when I first saw what we're going to talk about, it hit a point where I was just like, okay, this entire administration is a joke. The entirety of the Trump admin is quite literally a bunch of babies in a trench coat. So do you remember this guy right here? Right? This guy. Okay. Well, that's George Santos, the disgraced former New York congressman who might be the most documented fraudster in recent American political history. And if you don't remember him, okay, he was sentenced to more than 7 years in prison after pleading guilty to wire fraud and aggravated identity theft. Santos fabricated basically his entire life story. His education, his employment, his upbringing, all of it. He was expelled from Congress in 2023, making him just the 6th representative ever to be expelled, and the first to be expelled without being convicted of a crime at the time. Well, last week, Trump commuted his sentence. Yes, that is correct. The congressman who fabricated his entire life and stole from his own donors he gets to leave prison early because Trump just wee-wee wikes him. Trump announced the commutation on Truth Social Friday night, calling Santos, quote, somewhat of a rogue, which is like calling the Cybertruck somewhat flammable. Santos was released from federal correctional institution in Fairton, New Jersey, and if I had to guess what he's doing now, I'd say he's out shopping, probably for new set dressings for a podcast. Trump's justification for commuting Santos' sentence? He compared Santos to Democratic Senator Richard Blumenthal. Now, 15 years ago, let me repeat that. 15 years ago, Blumenthal admitted he misspoke about serving in Vietnam. Blumenthal did serve 6 years in the Marine Reserve starting in 1970, but didn't serve overseas. He exaggerated his service record, which is bad, and he apologized for it. Trump wrote, this is far worse than what George Santos did, and at least Santos had the courage, conviction, and intelligence to always vote Republican. So let me just be clear about what Trump is comparing here, okay? On one side, you have a senator who exaggerated his military service 15 years ago and faced political consequences. And on the other side, a congressman who fabricated his entire resume, lied about where he worked, where he went to school, what his family background was, and stole hundreds of thousands of dollars from his campaign donors through wire fraud. But Santos voted Republican, so apparently wire fraud is fine. That's the bar now. Steal from your own supporters, but as long as you vote the right way, you're golden. This makes sense, coming from the man whose family continues to defraud literal charities. And Santos isn't even the only controversial person that Trump has pardoned or commuted during his second term. The list is genuinely more wild and batshit crazy than you would expect. In January, Trump issued a blanket pardon to roughly 1,500 people charged with crimes related to the January 6th Capitol attack. People who assaulted police officers, people who broke into the Capitol building, people who were part of a violent attempt to overturn an election. They were pardoned. In May, he pardoned Todd and Julie Chrisley, the reality TV couple who were convicted of federal fraud charges because I guess committing fraud and liking Trump is a get-out-of-jail-free card. He also pardoned Rod Blagojevich, the former Illinois governor who tried to sell Barack Obama's vacant Senate seat. Trump actually commuted his sentence during his first term, so this is round 2 of helping out a guy who literally tried to auction off a Senate seat. Oh, and just really quickly, we should probably talk about the Diddy part.
What is the date? What is the date today? I completely,
Thursday. Yeah.
Thursday.
The 20th.
I was completely wrong, wasn't I?
You were.
I had the dates wrong. All this time. Diddy, come on out.
I'm sorry if you had to see that man's face. Now, Sean P. Diddy Combs was convicted in July on 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. He was acquitted on the more serious charges of racketeering and sex trafficking, but was sentenced to 50 months in prison, fined $500,000, and given 5 years of supervised release, none of which are enough for Diddy's crimes. Let me make that perfectly clear. But on Monday, TMZ reported that Trump was vacillating on commuting Diddy's sentence as soon as this week, citing a high-ranking White House official. Now, the White House immediately pushed back, saying there is zero truth to the TMZ report and calling it fake news. They claimed TMZ never even reached out for comment. TMZ responded by saying, no, we stand by our story. So who's telling the truth? Well, we don't know. But here's what we do know. Diddy's lawyers have confirmed they've been pursuing a pardon. And Trump has already commented on this publicly. Back in August, Trump was asked about potentially pardoning Diddy in a Newsmax interview.
John Diddy Combs,
Right.
would you consider pardoning him?
Well, he was essentially, I guess, sort of half innocent.
Yes.
I don't know what they do. He's still in jail or something, but he was celebrating a victory, but he seems, I guess it wasn't as good as a victory. Probably, I was very friendly with him. I got along with him great. And seemed like a nice guy. I didn't know him well. But when I ran for office, he was very hostile.
He said some not so nice things about you, sir.
And
yes.
it's hard, like you, we're human beings.
Right.
And we don't like to have things cloud our judgment, right? But when you knew someone and you were fine, and then you run for office and he made some terrible statements. So I don't know, it's more difficult. It makes it more, I'm being honest, it makes it more difficult to do.
But more likely a no for Combs,
I would say
like.
so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Trump's position on whether to pardon someone convicted of sex crimes comes down to, well, did they say nice things about me? This really can go either way. On the one hand, Trump adores sexual criminals like himself, but on the other hand, he hates doing favors for people who've badmouthed him. Now, I'm sure the conservatives watching are thinking about this critically, and they're going, well, I think it is important to know, will Trump do this? I pray. I know it's not probably happening, but I pray. Now, if you disagree with me on what we've talked about so far, the number's there on the screen, 914-268-6224. Okay, MAGA and Trump, they're ruining the country. If you disagree with me on this, call in. Tell me why. Defend yourself, because I can defend me. So, let's go on to our last story today. Now, I figured we could all use a good laugh cringe, right? A cringe laugh, whatever. Andrew Cuomo, first of his name, breaker of health department guidelines, killer of nursing home patients, the unresigned, wearer of nipple rings you can clearly see through white shirts, the sexual harasser of 13 women that we know of, Lord of Albany and the 5 boroughs. Now, he released an AI slop campaign video attacking New York City mayoral frontrunner Zohran Mamdani. He really thought he ate with this video, but quickly realized that all he served was hot garbage and then quickly deleted the video. Thankfully, Prem Thacker on Twitter saved and reposted the video before Cuomo deleted it. So, let's watch.
Prostitution.
And drunk driving.
With plans to decriminalize all drugs, Mamdani will be a job creator for drug dealers.
Instead of helping us homeless get off the streets and into the mental health facilities we need, he wants to give us safe injection sites to do crack and let us sleep in subway carts.
These are actual policies Mamdani and the DSA want to implement on day one.
When a woman's being domestically abused, she finally won't have to deal with some pesky cop to arrest the abuser, but now a social worker to help, kumbaya the situation.
Breathe in, breathe out.
Mamdani is finally lowering jail sentences. Guilty! But Mamdani...
Okay. So we cut it off there. I think you get the point, okay? I just wonder how many slurs Cuomo needed to use when he wrote that prompt. Because, did you watch what I just watched? The most burning question for me, though, truly, is this just an audition tape for the Trump administration when Mamdani wipes the floor with his bitch ass in November? One of the things I want to point out, just something from the video that I think is really, really important, okay? There was the bit mentioned about domestic violence. And that's a serious topic. And it's something we should know. Cops don't help stop or prevent. You know what does? The number one cause for spousal abuse and domestic violence is poverty. It's financial stressors. Well, also men not going to therapy, but financial stressors. So you know what could help? Mamdani's reform on fixing the wealth gap that exists in New York City. Or, I don't know, anything besides a guy who had 13 women come out against him as a sexual predator. I don't know. Maybe it's just me who holds on to that hope and belief. Now, we are going to get ready for our call-ins here on the show. Again, that number is on the screen. I'll have to fix... I know that the portrait view screen is locked. I'll have to fix that in a second. The number, 914-268-6224. We are going to take a very brief, about 5-minute or so break. And when we get back from that break, it is time for open call. So if you are not in the call queue now, go get in the call queue so that you can talk to me. Okay? We'll be right back. Quick breaky break, and then we will get back here to engaging in the calls. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show. It looks like all the Trump supporters are little crybaby poo-poo baby pantses today. And that's fine. none of you can contend with the stuff Trump has been doing. None of you can defend it. I'm totally okay with spending the next 30 minutes just riffing. But if you do want to call in, whether that's to ask questions, whether that's to ask me my opinion, if you just want to know if the prom dress you got last night actually works with these summer colors, call in 914-268-6224. That number again, 914-268-6224. What I think is happening is what tends to always happen in the political landscape. Trump supporters tend to be embarrassed, right? I think a lot of them are realizing, oh shit, I voted for this. So now that we know that Trump supporters are embarrassed, we can just look at the shit he's doing. I mean, listen, dude, how do you defend a man who wants $230 million for a sham investigation? How do you defend a man who has brought literal convicted rapists up to speak at major White House events? How do you defend a man? And I know what you're thinking, okay? And I know what you're gonna say back to me, like, but what about Biden? What about when Biden did this? What about, I didn't like that motherfucker either. I didn't like him either. Guys, I don't like him. So what do you mean? What about Biden? Instead, we're going through the same bullshit over and over with the Trump administration. We have to deal with Donald Trump doing the things he did the first term that we know didn't work. Y'all were so up in arms about this money to Ukraine, but all of a sudden $40 billion to Argentina. Absolutely. No problems with that. It's the hypocrisy. It's the straight hypocrisy that comes out of people that have conservative leanings. They don't care what's getting done as long as it's Trump is the person doing it, right? They like to go consistently. Hey, what do you mean we gender affirming care, blah, 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 forgetting that under Trump's first term is when the law got passed that prisons need to provide gender affirming care to inmates. That was done under the Trump administration. But again, we talk consistently that they don't give a shit about this. And it's funny to me, okay? It's funny to me. And we're gonna get into the swing of things. So first and foremost, we're gonna bring up Brian. Now, Brian is calling in because he wants to tell me that Trump is not deporting enough people. Brian, hello, are you there? I'm chilling, Brian. So, Brian, just so that I am fully cognizant of what you're saying here. First of all, welcome to the Weekly Dump, where we take a shit on your takes. You're telling me... Wait, I should start using that as a tagline. You're telling me that Trump is not doing enough deportations. Well, go ahead and explain that to me.
Elected democratically.
And immigrants, both illegal or otherwise, have a right to due process. Do you disagree with the Supreme Court on this? Okay, and what legal precedent are you basing that off of?
Because the American public have recognized that our system is no longer serving. And so we're almost at a point where we will turn over the system if the system is not helping Americans, right? So,
okay. Chat, just so everybody knows, hold on, Brian, just so everybody knows in chat, we are working on the audio issues. Just so everybody in chat is known. If hopefully, okay, there we go. Okay, it's all good. Chat's saying it's all good. So Brian, okay. Just so that we can retouch on the conversation because chat couldn't hear a portion of that. You think there's not enough deportations happening. You think undocumented immigrants should not have a right to due process. You disagree with the Supreme Court, who has affirmed numerous times throughout the last 4 decades that undocumented immigrants have a right to due process. And the only reason you disagree with the Supreme Court is because you think most Americans don't want them to have the right to due process. Do I have that right?
I think the last point is that I think we are recognizing that our system is failing us and that there needs to be a change and that the courts are actually a taxpayer expense and we don't want to pay for 20 million illegal immigrants to go through lengthy court proceedings.
So if we don't want to pay for something that is set up in our legal system, we can just start ignoring that legal system and going and circumventing it. So if I didn't want to pay my taxes because I didn't want to pay for the military industrial complex, I can just not do that and the IRS shouldn't be able to come after me. Because it's okay to break the law as long as you don't like that law and you don't support what is being paid for.
So my argument though is that there was no due process and there was no vetting when they were coming into our country.
Due process isn't a two-way street. You don't get to, Brian, due process isn't a two-way street.
Biden just wanted more voters. I mean, they're trying to
there's
rig the
no evidence. There's no evidence of a mass wave of undocumented immigrants voting. So I don't know. I mean, do you have evidence of this happening? Because I haven't seen any.
Yeah.
Are you just assuming Biden wants?
Of illegal immigrant voting.
No, I'm saying is there
there's not on a mass scale, but there is evidence.
Okay, so because there's evidence of illegal immigrants voting on the Republican side too. So which side wants the illegal immigrants for the votes? If both sides have evidence of undocumented immigrants voting.
That's interesting. Well, I don't think that they should be voting. I think we should have voter ID.
Wait, hold on. Voter ID is a different conversation, but we can say, okay, now we have voter ID, so now you don't care about undocumented immigrants being here because they can't vote.
I do have a problem with undocumented immigrants being here.
Okay, so voter ID doesn't matter in the context of the conversation we're having currently. Currently, your claim was that it's bad that undocumented people are here because they're circumventing our laws. Your claim was because Biden just wanted votes. We know that this to be untrue because both Republicans and Democrats have had people who were here. There have been undocumented people who supported Donald Trump who've been deported, right? Because Trump's claim before getting into office was we're just going to go after the criminals. We're not going to go after the people just every day working here. This was a lie. Up to 70% of all people who've been deported so far have had no criminal record whatsoever. So they're actually not targeting the criminals at all. Seems like the criminals aren't the ones being targeted here. It's the non-criminal offenders. So the thing I want to get back to though, the thing I want to make sure that we touch on is you're saying that even though we have due process, even though due process is not a two-way street, right? Breaking the law does not mean you don't get due process. That's never how that's worked. You're saying, and you've been saying this, is that you don't like that they get due process. You don't like that this is the legal system set up. So Trump should just be able to violate that legal system and do illegal things because you don't like the system that is currently set up.
So this is the whole No Kings protesting. You guys are protesting ICE when Trump was democratically elected and on a mandate to remove illegal immigrants from the country. So
should a democratically elected president be allowed to violate Supreme Court orders and break the law?
If you're going to talk about due process and breaking the law, then Obama was the bomber in chief in the Middle East.
Great. I think Obama's a war criminal who should be thrown into prison for his war crimes, Brian. So this is a nonsense talking point. You're just trying to skirt responsibility from Trump. Throw Obama in prison for his war crimes. I'll be the first one to be like, go.
Actually, no. So I'm worse than Trump, man. I'm trying to say Trump isn't doing enough.
Great, but you cannot justify why you should be able to break the law to do it. You just think, I don't like the law, so it should be able to be broken.
No, the reason why, man, and I'm going to be 100% honest with you, it's because I'm sick and tired of seeing women on the subway stabbed, raped, and murdered. And there's a fire burning in my heart, and it's a fireball.
Yeah,
that at some
I'm
point
sick
is
and
gonna
tired of that too. So
violently
maybe we
explode.
should what we should do is
Okay.
go after the white men
So-
because the highest when we look at demographic of people that commit rapes in this country are white male citizens. Maybe we should go after them, Brian.
Right.
I'm
You
also
should
sick
see
of
how
that.
many
So
black
should we
people are
deport?
labeled white.
Should we
You should
deport
see how many
Brian?
black
Should we
people are labeled
deport?
white.
I know, Brian. I know you can't handle the conversation right now. I know you can't. The largest demographic of rape perpetrators are cisgendered white men. So Brian, you're sick of seeing women raped.
That's a lie.
Should we
And your
deport?
viewers
You want to
should know
bet me?
that that's a
How much
lie.
do you want to put money on this? How much do you want to put money on it? It's $20. Let's do 20.
I'd put
$20.
my life on it.
You would bet your. No, I'm
I
asking
would
you
put
for.
my
I'm
life on
asking
it,
if you
man.
want to make a monetary bet right now. Monetary bet.
Sir,
$20.
I know
Yes
that
or no?
That's the truth because
Nope,
white
Brian.
people are
Yes or
civilized.
no? Do you want to make
White
the
people
bet,
are
Brian?
civilized.
If you know
And
it's
you
true,
fucking niggers,
Brian. If you know it's
you
true, make.
fucking
There we go.
faggots.
There we go.
You
That's what
are
I thought.
retard.
Brian, suck dick. Bye. We don't need you. You fucking failed out of the conversation. And so what you had to do was you had to drop as many slurs as you can. Brian, you have been banned from ever calling back. You're lucky I'm not a dick, or I would give everybody your phone number. But I'm not an asshole, Brian. You know what I am, Brian? Because I know you're probably still listening, because racists tend to do that. You know what I am, Brian? I'm someone that comes with actual facts. I offered you a bet, Brian, but you couldn't take it. You couldn't handle this black man possibly being smarter than you, could you, Brian? Could you? You couldn't handle that the black man might have information you don't have, Brian. Embarrassing for you. Not embarrassing for me. Embarrassing for you. So what I'm going to do really quickly, just 1 second. Just because I like to be thorough. First of all, when we're talking about offenders, the average when it comes to offenders of rape, 95.9% of rapes are committed by U.S. citizens. So if we want to end rape so badly, Brian, should we just kick all U.S. citizens out of the country? Brian, should we boot them? Should they go? Here we go. And now when it comes to offenders, 51.6% of rape offenders are white men. This comes directly from the FBI's quick fact checks on sexual abuse offenders. 51.6, 92.1% are men, 51.6% are white. Thanks for playing, Brian. You proved that you're an idiot. Anyway, to those who had to listen to Brian's bullshit and the slurs that he threw out, I apologize for you having to hear that. Crazy that this. Somebody should go. You know what I need somebody to do? If you're a member on my channel, specifically, not the Weekly Dumps channel, go and listen to Brian's call. Then go listen to the call I had 3 days ago on my channel with that racist dude. See if they were the same person. Part of me wants to think that this was the same person. Because I have his number blocked on my call-in studio. I didn't have his number blocked on the call-in studio we used for the Weekly Dump. Yep, I know. We'll get to it. So, how's it feel, guys? Sorry, I called you that. I'm chilling, bro. I'm chilling. Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately for me, unfortunately for Brian, I actually know how to have a debate. I know how to argue my points. Ryan's entire claim was, and which most Trump supporters' entire claims are, we should be able to break the law because we don't like this. The party of law and order says we should be able to ignore due process, which again, the Supreme Court has affirmed is given to undocumented citizens. We should be able to ignore this because we don't like it. Trump should be able to commit 34 felonies, and it shouldn't matter to us because we don't like it. Trump should be able to be held civilly liable for rape, and it doesn't matter to us. We don't care. We don't actually give a shit about that. Why would we? Trump should be able to walk into women's changing rooms and just, who cares, guys? So what? So what if he does that? Boo-hoo. It's utterly embarrassing. We're going to have a little bit of a palate cleanse call. So Cam is calling for office hours, and Cam, wants to ask me who I main in Smash, Cam, I'll very simple. Jigglypuff.
Jigglypuff. Oh, so like do you prefer lightweights or just Jigglypuff
I don't
just
know.
stands out?
I just play for the memes. So Jigglypuff to me is the funniest character to play as. So I play as Jigglypuff. I'd play as Waluigi if
Really,
they put
I
him in the
think
fucking
K-Rool's
game.
sillier. Yeah,
I
I
like
wish
the
they put
silly.
Waluigi in there, but like I understand like why he isn't in there.
Say that again.
But yeah, no, I also wish they had Waluigi in there, but like I totally understand why they don't. Like he doesn't have like his own gamer franchise like Wario. He's kind of just
He's
like
more
in there
popular
to
than
compare
Wario.
to Mario.
I don't know how many times I have to tell people this. Waluigi, by the way, welcome Cam to the Weekly Dump where we shit on your takes. Waluigi is a better, more popular character than Wario. Now, you also said, Cam, that you wanted to ask a question about a prior call. You wanted some clarification on something. What was that?
Oh no, it wasn't anything about a prior call. I was just referencing the beginning of your show when you said that I could call in with any questions or any opinions like that.
Oh, heard.
Heard.
Well, yeah.
And I think K-Rool is actually a sillier character than Jigglypuff.
You think who's a funnier character than Jigglypuff?
You know King K-Rool?
No, King K. Rool is not a funnier. No, Jigglypuff is the funniest character to main. It's just funny. Everybody picks
What
these.
about the
Like
belly?
King K. Rool. King K. Rool is this big, bulky dude. He makes sense in a fighting game. Jigglypuff's a Jigglypuff. It's a Jigglypuff, Cam.
King K-Rool's like.
Cam, thank you so much for calling and being our palate cleanser between the absolute insanity of today.
Of course, thank you. Bye.
Bye bye. King K. Rool, get out of here, Cam. Get out of here. Me personally, I main Jigglypuff. In Mario Kart, I main Waluigi because I don't think there is a better character in all of Nintendo canon, excluding Zelda, than Waluigi. I don't think it exists. I don't think you can point to any of them. And if you're saying you can, you're a goddamn liar. Anyway, we are going to bring up the next person. Coming up onto the show, we have Chase. Now, Chase was a previous Trump supporter who wants to publicly speak out about his piece in the call that said the N-word. Chase, welcome to the Weekly Dump where we take a shit on your takes. Welcome to the show.
Hey man, how's it going? Take a shit on all my takes.
we're hanging in there, Chase. Now, you were a previous Trump supporter. What did you vote for him in the previous two elections?
So no, I did not vote for him the first time around. Just because his character spoke volumes and the man is a piece of shit.
Okay. And so did you vote for him the second go around?
I did vote for him the second go around, but that's just because I was absolutely fed up with the amount of inaction that I was seeing from the Biden administration, or at least that I was being led to see.
Okay. Wait, now I'm confused. Trump versus Clinton, who did you vote for? Or could you vote at that point? I don't know. I can't do math.
Oh, I'm 28 years old, so I did vote in that one, and I voted Trump.
Okay, Trump v. Clinton. You voted
Wait,
Trump.
And Clinton. That's the first. That was his first administration.
Yeah, I asked you about the first. But yeah. Trump v. Clinton. You voted for Trump. Trump v. Biden.
Yes.
You voted for Biden. Trump v. Harris. You voted for Trump.
No. Okay, so that just confused me. The first election, I voted for Trump.
Over Clinton.
Second election, yes.
Okay.
Second election, I voted for Trump.
Over Biden. Got it.
Yes. This election, I did not vote for him.
This election, you did not vote for him. Okay. What changed between voting for him? Because you said you didn't like the inaction of the Biden campaign. But what changed that you said, well, I'm not going to put Trump back into office? Like, what changed about your opinion towards Trump?
Well, to be completely honest, I was raised Christian. I was raised through Christ. I'm not trying to make this anything religious. But
just knowing what I know about Christ, everything that this administration is pushing is the exact opposite. And that's not healthy. That's not good. The amount of division that has been created since he has come into office, his first administration, just the amount of division that has been created since he's come in has been outrageous. And everyone can fight and say, or they can use the argument, oh, there's always been division. I'm always going to throw the same argument back at you. Just because there's been division means it's okay to continue doing it? No, it's not.
Okay. But you didn't. So what was it about Trump the first two times that you were like, this is my guy? Because he's always been divisive. He famously got into office going, the Democrats are bad. I'm going to drain the swamp. They're all terrible. Like what? And even after his first term, I would say he had ramped up the divisiveness. So what was it that made you go, this is my guy? Like what was it about Trump that you were like, I support this over any other candidate?
So I'm really glad that you mentioned draining the swamp. I guess that was also part of the red wave that we were all supposed to see. That didn't happen. He didn't drain the swamp. And if we want to talk about draining the swamp, releasing the Epstein files is 100% a part of draining that swamp. And look at what they're doing right now. They're trying their best to keep this stuff from getting out. And being as conservative as I am, I don't care what people say about how conservative they are and still choosing to support this administration. Your conservative values have nothing to do with right or wrong when it comes to pedophilia.
Okay. So then how do you a quick
it's-
question on that. How do you feel? Oh my God. I'm gonna if producer Steve can remind me of the guy's name. How do you feel about Trump bringing Trump I don't know how much you've watched the show here. But in a previous week we talked about when Trump brought back the presidential fitness exam, he brought God, what was his name, Steve?
The presidential fitness exam that he didn't even do.
Yeah, but he brought to help him with it. He brought in a former NFL player, admitted convicted rapist, to the White House to work on this program for children. Like, how do you feel about him doing that?
That was trash.
Lawrence Taylor, thank you,
That
guys.
was a trash decision.
Mm-hmm. Do you?
That was an absolutely trash decision.
Mm-hmm. So it's nice to know that you're moving away from Trump. Are you still conservative in your beliefs?
So as far as that goes, yes, I still hold true, and my conservative beliefs may not align with everybody else's idea of conservatism, but where I lie with it is with the foundations that this country was built on, and we're literally seeing the degradation of that every single day. And honestly, it's kind of scary whenever you don't know what to do about it. And it's scary whenever you don't have a healthy enough base saying, look, we all need to unite and we need to create action around uniting, not just talking about it. So I'm sitting back here and I'm watching all this happen, and we're all watching it happen.
What beliefs, Chase?
Sorry, go ahead.
What conservative beliefs do you still hold on to? Like if you had to just rattle off like three but three of the most important things to you via your conservative belief set, what would those be?
Number one would be the power of the family. Number two would probably have to be law and order, which unfortunately we're not seeing right now. The third one would probably, I'm going to try to be careful with this one. It would probably have to be the healthier moral side to Christianity, if it makes sense.
Okay, we'll look at each of these individually. I'm gonna keep the remembrance of the third one in my back pocket. So one is the preservation of the family. What makes you say this is a conservative value?
Well, I would say it's more of a conservative value because, and I'm sorry if this offends anybody, I really don't mean nothing by it, but when you look at the way that society has changed since, and again, I'm sorry, but since thug life culture has ramped up so much. I understand we've always had the mafias, we've always had the gangs and stuff, but realistically, when you look at it, thug life culture has ramped up so much. It's not only in the black communities, it's in the Latino communities, it's in the white communities. We call them Wonder Breads.
What? Okay.
It's just there's a precedent that is being set through this thug life culture that people are staying away from their families and they're going around and sleeping with so many different women and so many different people and creating, for the lack of better words,
Chase.
a family.
Chase.
And they're not taking care of it.
Chase, what is the primary reason for? We'll take we'll just take the black community for a second. I'm fairly familiar with this community. One would say I have inside knowledge of this community. What would you say is the primary reason for single motherhood in black in the black community?
I would say the single reason would probably be the violence and the shootings and this and that.
So this would be wrong.
Basically people taking and okay.
Yeah. This would be
You said it's a
incorrect.
problem?
No, I said this would be an incorrect this would be the incorrect reason. So the primary reasons for single motherhood in the black community are institutionalized racist policy. Specifically, it's going to be the heavily policing of black neighborhoods and throwing black men into prisons, and then socioeconomic factors. So it's going to be the wealth gap. None of those
Okay.
are about thug life.
Can I expand on that a little bit?
Sure, you can try.
Can I expand on that a little bit? And
yeah, you can try. Yeah.
I'm also going to go back to that thug life comment.
Okay.
So if this thug life culture wasn't continuing on and people didn't rise above what they are used to and what they are stuck around, they wouldn't be putting themselves in those situations. I understand you may say it's institutionalized, but the continuing living of that type of culture is what is doing themselves a disservice.
So you believe that individuals should have the power on an individual level to combat the systemic racism that they are faced with on an institutional level?
They should, while also rising above what they are used to.
How so?
That is what I believe.
Let's take gang culture, for instance, in the black communities. Let's take gang culture. Why do people join gangs?
Because they either see no other way to get into society, which I see what you're saying about the systemic racism side, and I am with you on that. I see it, I understand it prevalent, and I've actually witnessed it in person. So I'm not denying that that's not a thing. What I'm saying is that the gang culture that is bringing these young adults and starting them out in that type of culture before they even have a chance to step foot into, for lack of better words, the real world to do things right like everybody else is doing, they're being sucked into this stuff at very young ages, and this is all they're learning and it's all they know at that time.
So what it
and there's no other healthier there's no other healthier sort of
do you know what the number one when it comes to preventing children from joining gangs or getting into that life, do you know what the number one tool we have for that is? Like,
it falls back to the parent.
No, incorrect.
To stop those kids from getting back into those,
No,
see,
no,
this is the
incorrect.
issue. We keep
Incorrect.
fighting about whether this goes on to the parents or not. And the parents need to be better with their kids and be more in their lives and active and making sure they're not doing these
Okay.
things. They need to
Okay.
be making sure they're not
How
talking to
does a
certain
poor
people. They need to be
parent
making sure they're not
how does
doing
a poor
drugs.
parent working 2 jobs just so they can afford rent? We're in an inner city. They're working 2 jobs just so they can afford rent. When do they have the time to see their kids?
You just explained my life to a T, and I'm not a thug. I'm not a gang right now.
That is
I
called
chose to go other
survivorship
directions.
bias, right? Going, I made it out, so everybody else should have been able to make it out is called survivorship bias. My question to you was,
And
how does a
but is
person?
that not a fair thing to say?
No,
Is that not a fair thing to say?
no, incorrect. It's
How
survivorship
is it not a
bias.
fair thing to say?
Because you're certain. Nobody
How
knows
is it
the
not a
litany
fair
of
thing
the
to say?
nobody knows the litany of the circumstances that you would have had to go through to get where you are in life. Nobody knows the exact circumstances somebody else is going through. But what we know is when we look at averages on these things,
That's fair.
one of the number one deterrents for gang indoctrination from a young age is before and after school care. So before and after school programs, when a child has before and after school care, either through a independent party like the Boys and Girls Clubs of America, YMCA, things like that, or even better through the school itself, we see the number of children who get into gang culture decrease. Now, you said you are conservative. You want these numbers to go down because you want to build a better family. But the number one people who are defunding before and after school care in the U.S. are Republicans. It's conservative leaning ideology because they
Okay.
don't think that the government should be funding before and after school care.
I can give a fair argument to that, but I understand where your head's at now, and you're not going to be on it. You're not going to be with it, and it's a tough argument to get behind because of what everybody has gotten used to. Everybody's gotten used to be given the help that they've been requiring, but no one's actually sitting these parents down and counseling them and mentoring them to be better in their lives for their children.
When do the
Rather
parents
than
have the
doing
time
that,
for the
they are
mentorship
just
if they
giving
need
them
to?
money.
Let's do some numbers. Let's do some numbers. Pick a large American city where gang violence is a thing.
I'm from Dallas, Texas, so I'm going to say Oak Cliff.
Okay, I've never heard of that before. You said Oak Cliff? Oak Cliff, Texas?
Oak Cliff, yes.
Sure.
Yes, it's
What's the
south
average?
of
What's
Dallas.
the average rent? Let's say it's a single mom and her 2 children. What's the average rent for a 3-bedroom apartment there?
Oh, I used the wrong argument then because the price of living there is outrageous.
Well, we're looking at any intercity. That's where the gang culture is going to be largest. Rent is going to be outrageous in any. You understand that, right?
No, because I live in the Knoxville Metroplex, and we don't have outrageous pricing here.
Okay.
Not to the degree
If
that
we're
Dallas
looking at
or Chicago
yes, but if we're
or
looking
St.
at the
Louis would have.
proliferation of gang violence, that's going to be most centrally located in these larger inner city areas.
Okay, so let's say New York.
Where in New York? Which borough?
Oh, I'm not from New York, so I'm just going to say New York City.
Okay. New York is 5 boroughs. I'll just pick one of them. Let's say we're looking at Brooklyn. Okay. Say we're looking at Brooklyn and we're looking at average rent in Brooklyn for a 3-bedroom. Okay. Average rent in Brooklyn for a 3-bedroom. We're looking at around $5,763 a month. That's average. That's for a mom and her 2 kids. Let's say the mom says, "Well, I guess I can't afford it. Little Bonquisha and little Jamiroquai have to share a bedroom, so we're gonna go 2 bedrooms." You're still looking at around $4,000 to $5,000 a month, maybe higher, depending on where in Brooklyn you're going. Okay.
Which
let's say
sounds disgusting. That's way too much.
Great. Now let's say this mom is working for the minimum wage in New York City at the time, which is, let's pull it up. just so that I have it. Minimum wage. Let's say on the low end, she gets a $4,000 apartment for her and her kids. Minimum wage in New York City, right? Because she's poor. She grew up poor, so she's getting about $16.50 per hour. $16.50 per hour. Let's pull up a calculator and do some math here. Let's say she works a 40-hour work week because, she's a full-time worker. So 40-hour work week, 16 an hour, $640 a week. Times that by 2, $1,280 a week. Times that by 2 more, she's looking about $2,560 a month. Can she afford that 2-bedroom apartment in Brooklyn? No.
Probably not. I mean, most people on their wages nowadays can't afford what they need.
Great. So she's got to get a second job. Let's say she gets a second minimum wage job, and let's say she adds another 20 hours. So she's working, where are we at now? She's working like 60 hours a week. $16 an hour, 60 hours a week. So let's just see. So 60 hours a week, we're going to times that by 16, $960 a week, $1920 every 2 weeks, $3,840 every month. Can she afford that 2-bedroom apartment still? No. Let's say she gets one on the low end. Let's say she's lucky enough to find a 2-bedroom apartment in Brooklyn for about $2,000. Let's just hypothetical, right? Let's hypothetically say she's able to get that $2,000. Beautiful. God bless her. She's able to do that. So $2,000 leaves her with, give or take, I just got to do, so $3,840. Well, we're going to have to subtract taxes from that. Taxes in New York are pretty high. So if her takeaway is, give me 1 second.
Like 500 or 600.
Yeah, she would lose most of that that last little bit. So if she's making $16 an hour and she's working a 60-hour week, just doing some more maths, her estimated semi-monthly is $1,147. So that's her estimated 2-week pay. $1,147. That's after taxes. So in a month, she's pulling $2,294 in a month. That's after taxes. That's for $16 an hour, working a 60-hour work week minus taxes. Okay. So, I would like to know how she's affording anything. So now we know that she can't really afford. Now let's say she gets even luckier and she gets an $1,800 a month apartment. God bless her. Don't know where she found it. She has $494 left of spending money. $494. Okay. How does she afford daycare for her one kid who's not in primary school yet? Daycare is like on the low end. You're looking at $1,200 a month. So she can't afford daycare. So where does she send her kid?
So you remember how I said I supported? You remember how I said I supported the family unit?
Mm-hmm.
Where's her family at? Why isn't her family helping her?
A litany of reasons. Maybe she doesn't have family. Maybe her parents are dead. Maybe she was raised by a single mom who's not here anymore, because we know that single family households are cyclical. Maybe her father's in prison because he was thrown in there during the crack epidemic. Now I'm going to say, hey, here's somebody who needs help. And I want to implement policies to make sure that her kids stay off the streets. Maybe a great way we do that is we fund before and after care at school. Maybe we give free daycare and free preschool so parents can have somebody safe to watch their kids while they go to work for pennies.
So when does the responsibility fall on the parent for not getting?
She's doing everything she can. She's working 2 jobs, 60 hours a week. What else should she be doing? She's doing everything she can with the skills that she has.
I'm talking about before she had the children. Don't lay the seed if you can't do the deed.
Okay, so she just should have never had sex.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying she should have been more responsible. There needs to be more responsibility put on the individual.
Okay, so you think she should have been said, like, What? She got pregnant, so now what? She should have had an abortion instead. That would have been the more responsible thing to do.
In my opinion, yes, and I support abortion, still being conservative.
Interesting. Well, because you did mention God
I'm
took rules.
I'm
but
I'm a
that's-
weird one. I'm a weird
I
one.
think that's a little weird, yeah.
I understand.
So
I'm a weird one.
So she should have had an abortion. Now let's say let's transport her from New York to Texas. Abortion's illegal. Now what does she do?
Well, I'm not saying she necessarily should have had an abortion, but maybe
Well, she
make
got
a better
pregnant.
decision for the child.
Pregnancies
Adoption
pregnant.
or
Okay, so she should give her
abortion.
children. So you want to maintain the family unit by giving up her children. That's going to maintain the family unit. She should put her children into
Did
foster or
she
adoptive care.
maintain? But did she maintain and keep in mind the family unit whenever she was having sex? No, she didn't. She didn't think about the consequences that were going to come.
She
from
used
having
proper
sex
protection.
unprotected.
41% of all pregnancies happen from failed contraception. So she used proper protection when she had sex. She was on the pill.
Well,
Her partner
So
used
we're
condoms.
talking
They
about
failed.
a theoretical person, so we don't know whether they use protection
Oh,
or not.
I promise
because
you
she
these
has
people
kids.
really exist. This isn't me making up a hypothetical of somebody a situation that's never occurred. 41%, this is per the Guttmacher Institute, 41% of all pregnancies happen due to failed contraceptive. So she used contraception. It failed.
Okay.
Now she has children. Your
Okay.
answer to what she should do is give them up for adoption. So your answer to preserve
Not at this point, no.
instead
Not at this
of okay,
point,
so then
no. I said give
so
up adoption at birth.
okay, so what does she do now? She does not make enough to cover rent, plus groceries, plus bus fare, plus her children's schooling, plus electricity, plus water, plus taxes, plus everything else that she's got to pay for. What should we do to help
It's
this
gonna
woman?
sound cold. It's gonna sound cold, but she needs to pull up her bootstraps and put in the hard work
She's
that
working
everyone else
60
has still
hours
had
a
to be
week
putting in.
already. What should she up it to 80 hours a week?
Yes.
Okay. She's now working 80 hours a week. Who takes care of her children when they're not at school?
She needs to find a friend, or she needs to find some sort of care that offers a program that it would be free to her.
Well, unfortunately, you don't want us to pay for those because you vote conservative, and conservatives want to strip back those programs. Again,
I didn't vote
before
conservative this time around.
I know
though.
you didn't vote anything this time around. Right? You didn't vote for Harris, did you?
For this last presidential election, I sure did vote for Harris.
Okay, so you did vote for Harris this election. Okay, and then I misheard you earlier. So
Yeah, I
when
I
next
didn't vote for Trump this election, but I voted for him the last two.
okay. So when next election comes around, okay? You will vote in if it's not Trump, let's say JD Vance is up. Are you going to vote?
No, I'm voting. I am voting blue down the ticket just because I see the fascism that is coming with this administration, and it's a threat to this democracy. It's got to go.
Okay. Fair enough. We've hit our time for this call. If you want to call back and we can touch on some of the other stuff that you brought up, if you want to call back next week, I would just say have a bit of a look at that nuclear family take that you have, that family preservation. But Chase, thank you for calling in. You have a good rest of your day. Okay. I see we have callers, so hello everybody in chat who is calling to talk. Just a reminder, if you do send a super chat over on the Red Mirror Media's YouTube page, we will read it. I don't know if we've had any more since. I can't see producer Steve in the booth, so I'm not sure. Okay, totally cool. We're gonna go and keep bringing up people. That being said, what's our time? I'm going to shut the call-in lines off so we can't get any more calls, so I can try to get through the calls that we do have. Next up, we're going to bring in Kieran. Kieran is a detransitioner who wants to talk about their story. Kieran, hello. Welcome to the Weekly Dump, where we take a shit on your takes. How are you doing today?
Hi, Jovan. I'm doing good. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Kieran, we don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to give you a little bit, but I see here that you you detransitioned for your safety. So I would love to hear a little bit about your story if you could tell us.
Yeah, the reason why I was calling is because obviously not your take, but a lot of people who call in and argue against trans healthcare argue about like, well, what about that 1 to 3% of people who detransition and act like, oh, all of them regret it and wish that they made different choices.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of wanted to share as someone who's detransitioned, that who is technically someone who's detransitioned, that is not always the case.
Yep.
I've had a lot of gender affirming healthcare in my life, and it's the reason why I'm still alive today. Even detransitioning, I don't have any regrets. So I kind of just wanted to talk a little bit about that to maybe the people who listen in can kind of get a different perspective of what that looks like, I guess.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
So when I was growing up, I'm AFAB. I was assigned female at birth.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was growing up, I lived as a trans boy for about 8 years, and then I transitioned into being non-binary once I kind of grew to understand that. But my
Mm-hmm.
history for those 8 years of being a trans boy still informed
Mm-hmm.
being non-binary, and the things that like I have 2 moms. The stuff that they did of like respecting my chosen name, respecting the way that I dress, respecting like how I live my life, were all so informative to me surviving gender dysphoria, but also extreme depression and anxiety, even as a small child.
Okay.
And even though that kind of evolved from being transmasc into being non-binary, that like everything that came before didn't undo.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it wasn't undone from transitioning from transmasc to non-binary, I guess,
Okay.
is what I'm trying to say.
No, I get you.
But I live in Texas, and it's extremely scary being trans in my area. There's a lot of times me and my trans femme partner have been discriminated in our area. There's been really scary situations with the bathroom, and I've been very terrified with a lot of medical procedures I've had and like legal documentation. I just had a legal name change. Um, I'm really terrified of having who I am, being non-binary, using they them pronouns, being public record anywhere.
Okay.
So all of my medical doctors don't know that. I have an F on my ID and all my
Mm-hmm.
paperwork, and it chips away at my soul every day. But um, I
Well, I do want
was
to. I want
able
to. I want
to
to.
have
I want to just so we can slightly recap some of the stuff you've said so far. Um,
for
it is
sure heard quite
absolutely
a
the
bit.
yeah, it is absolutely the case that like the large percentage of people that detransition do so from societal or familial pressure or financial stressors. I know that
Exactly.
I do think the 1% number is for the identity detransitions. So people who and by the way, a lot of the times the detransition number doesn't account for people who, much like yourself, may have moved to like a non-binary identity. They actually don't count those
Mm-hmm.
in the detransition numbers in what I think is the right way. Um, because it's not it's they're not counting them as people re-identifying with their birth sex. They're counting it as I just don't think it's worked properly. Um, but yeah, and I do understand like some of the issues, especially with IDs and stuff. I mean, we've seen the attack on like passports and how that's affected other trans people in the country. But yeah, continue, keep going.
Um, so one thing I was going to say is that I've actually been, in a weird way, very lucky. I actually needed to have a double mastectomy and over a hysterectomy for
Hmm.
medical reasons, but that also was extremely helpful for my gender dysphoria. It's one
Yep.
of the best things that's ever happened to me, just because I legally kind of have to, in public spaces, act like I'm not trans. Doesn't mean
Hmm.
that I have any regrets over being able to have like surgical procedures that changed my life, but
Yep.
have changed it for the better in every way.
Okay.
Even if I'm technically detransitioned, there's no regrets there. And that's one of the things that I feel like a lot of fear mongering is like, oh, well, if trans people undergo puberty blockers, hormone treatment, surgery, and then they detransition, they're going to regret it and it's not going to be undoable. But for a lot of people like me, but other people who I know too who have had to detransition, there's still not a regret right there.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's not always the case. Obviously, there is a
Like I
margin of
said,
regret, of course.
if I'm remembering, I should know this off the top of my head, but I don't have the study name off the top of my head. If I'm remembering, it is around, God, I think it's around like 3 to 4% detransition, and then only 1% are detransitioning and then re-identifying with their birth registered sex. If I'm remembering correctly, I could be misremembering, but I don't have the study in front of me like I usually do when I'm sitting at my home computer. I need just a stack of studies right here that I can just like, which one?
Yeah, exactly. I just my ex-family was very conservative, and I kind of hear a lot of their arguments in some of the people who call in and kind of have these quote unquote like concerns
Mm-hmm.
about people making choices for their own health care in terms of gender affirming health care and social trans support. And I kind of wanted to just explain like not everybody in that small percent regrets it or should not have had it. Is
Yeah.
kind of what I was getting at.
Well, definitely. Kieran, thank you so much for calling. Thank you so much for telling us a little bit about your story. If you want to call in the future and if there's any more you want to tell us, please do. But yeah, thank you so much for letting us know.
Yeah, thank you so much. And by the way, my partner's the one who's gotten me into your content. She watches all your stuff, so
Hey, tell them thank you from me. Shout out Kieran's partner.
I will.
All right.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Have a good day,
Have a great
Jovan.
rest of your day. We got one more person on the line, and then that'll be it for the show. Good show this week. We got calls, we got news, I got called the N-word. I mean, really successful show all around. Really quick to finish the show out, we're gonna bring up Zelly. Zelly wants to tell me that Majora's Mask is the best Zelda game. I'm gonna disagree because obviously it's Breath of the Wild. But go ahead, Zelly. Tell me about welcome to the weekly dump where we shit on your takes. Tell me about why you have this very terrible Zelda take, Zelly.
I wouldn't really call it a terrible Zelda take. I would say that Majora's Mask is probably the most alive world. It's really condensed. The 3-day cycle allows people to live like real lives. I understand in Breath of the Wild like they do as well. They definitely are just hanging around, walking from place to place. It's more alive in Majora's Mask, I feel. And the side quests in Majora's Mask have just been better. And it does have better dungeons than the Breath of the Wild.
Wow, Zelly, listening to you give such a terrible Zelda take it was what I needed to get over being called the N-word. Here's why you're wrong, and I'll tell you why you're wrong really quickly. Majora's Mask is great. It is top 5, might even be number 3. It's not as good as Ocarina of Time. It's very close. It's not as good as Ocarina of Time. It's not as good. It's close. It's a very minute amount, but it's not as good. And it's not as good as Breath of the Wild. I could give you video essay list about why Breath of the Wild is better, but I think I need to do that because can you climb mountains in Majora's Mask?
Depends on the mountain. Well, yes, you can.
No. I mean, can you... let me rephrase that, Zelly. Can you climb any surface you want in Majora's Mask? No.
No, you cannot.
No, you
can
cannot.
Just climb that one mountain wall.
No, you cannot. And can you go straight to the end boss fight at the start of the game if you've got the skills and beat Calamity Ganon with a stick? Can you do that in Majora's Mask?
Not Calamity Ganon, no. But yes, you can skip right to the end. It's just the devs didn't intend you to.
Okay. you could skip to the end. It's not really gonna pan out for you. But Zelly, thank you for the call. And actually, it's what I needed to end out the stream.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, have a good rest of your day. That was our show today, folks. That was the Weekly Dump, where I like that tagline for calls. Thank you for calling the Weekly Dump, where we take a shit on your takes. That's pretty good. I'm gonna have to keep that in my back pocket. Someone remind me next week, because I know I will forget it. Thank you to everybody who called in. Thank you to everybody who watched. Thank you if you support the show or sent a super chat or did any of that fun stuff. We are done for the day. Next week's dump, we will have our post show. So if you're not a member of the Patreon and soon to be Red Mirror members only, like the members only content on Red Mirror, if you're not a member of those things, you'll miss that. But we'll be here with a post show next week. So be on the prepare for that. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks again to producer Steve, technical director Chris, and director of photography Jonathan in the booth for making sure the show ran smoothly. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for being here. My name is Jovan Bradley, and I still don't have an outro. I will see you next week. Bye.